Original comic art. That might be a new term to you, because the hobby has kinda flown under the radar. Even the hardcore collectors I talked to only started buying these drawings in the 90s, so it doesn't have a long history as an investment, like baseball cards, model trains, or action figures.
Is that the $6 million man's boss?
It's Oscar Goldman.
Why do you have that?
That's worth a lot of money.
Despite generating tens of millions of dollars every year, collecting comic art has been basically ignored by mainstream media.
Once again, please?
Yeah, I said basically ignored. The movie Unbreakable is a very notable exception. But with almost no exposure, you're not alone if you've never heard about this hobby. For the uninitiated, let's do a quick debrief.
Listen occasionally, you might learn something.
Before TV and films made them household names, heroes like Superman and the Incredible Hulk were in a no-holds-barred battle for kids' allowance. This epic throwdown played out every month on the shelves of newsstands and in drugstores. It isn't likely those kids thought much about or could even name the artist behind their favorite Caped Crusader.
Do you know who I am?
Huh.
Guys like Bill Everett, Wim Mortimer, Gil Kane, and others were the ones putting pencil and brush to paper, grinding it out every month to meet difficult deadlines, most of the time on more than one title. Thousands of their hand-drawn pages, now considered fine art, traveled a lot and weren't treated with much care.
I have a package for you.
Sounds broken.
Drawings were handed off from pencilers to inkers and then editors who make notes right on the art and send it back. Eventually, the work went to printers. It was bound together and mass-produced to become books like Action Comics, Thor, and the Justice League of America. Interest in these original drawings has exploded over the last 2 decades for investors and collectors. Now pages sell for tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I was wondering how much something like this went for.
$130,000.
Get the fuck out of here!
No, I cannot. It's serious.
I'll be highlighting the creators, the fans, and the stories behind this booming hobby. You're watching Comics and Sketchy Collectors. Our first story begins in a comic book store in the mid-1980s.
It's a pretty cool place. If you're a Martian.
Or a vampire.
Actually, it was a comic store in New York City. Collector Randy Savage was there. Wait, that can't be right. Brad Savage. Brad Savage was chatting with the owner about that week's releases when 2 men walked in. They placed a stack of pages on the counter and said they were looking for a buyer.
We're talking about money.
Savage couldn't believe his eyes. Atop this pile sat page 1 to Amazing Spider-Man, number 4. Steve Ditko's original pencils. A splash page that introduced the world to one of Spidey's perennial villains, the Sandman. No, not this Sandman. Not him either. Not even this guy. We're talking about the shapeshifter William Baker. He pushed the page aside and under it, the original pencils and inks to page 2 of the same book. Then, page 3, 4, 5. It was the original pencils for the entire issue.
The whole damn thing.
But there was more. Underneath the pages to issue 4 of The Amazing Spider-Man, every page to issue number 3. It was the first to feature another major villain, the one and only Dr. Octopus. Every page, all Steve Ditko originals. Below that, the complete artwork for issue number 2. And at the bottom of the pile, the Grail of Grails. All the interior art to Amazing Spider-Man number 1.
Room's starting to spin real fast.
The first issue, published in 1963, featured Spidey's second appearance, a few months after he debuted in Amazing Fantasy number 15. The men were asking $2,000 for all 4 issues. The shop owner said no thanks, but Savage had no intention of letting this opportunity slip through his hands. Problem was, he had nowhere near that amount of money in his pocket.
What about this?
With a loan from the shop owner, Savage was able to offer the men a $700 down payment for all the art. They weren't interested. So he countered, "How about $700 just for issue number 1? The men refused, unwilling to break up the set. Savage was getting desperate.
say we kill him. Shut the door, nigga. Shh, it's gonna be all right, baby. Don't look.
But they promised they'd come back to the store the next day if he could come up with the money. He managed to pull together the full $2,000 that night, and sure enough, when he returned in the morning, the men were there with a pile of art waiting on the counter. But Savage's worst fear was realized when the men told him they'd already sold the Spider-Man pieces. You see, another buyer had emerged, offering $2,000 just for issue number 1. That collector bought the other pages as well.
Asshole, major asshole.
But they had something else to offer Savage. On the counter sat the original art for X-Men number 1, number 2, and number 5, all drawn by the legendary Jack Kirby. The X-Men were well known in the 1980s, but it would still be years before the Fox cartoon and films took their popularity to new heights. So to Brad's delight, the sellers were offering these pages at a steep discount compared to the ones from Spider-Man. Savage bought X-Men issue 1 for $400 and bought the other 2 issues for $200 each. We don't know how those sellers came into possession of these pages. Much has been made about original art from the Golden Age. Pages were many times given away, destroyed, stolen, or just never returned to the artist.
He's saying that life is bullshit, and it is, so what are you screaming about?
This has created plenty of disputes in the hobby about the rightful ownership for many of these early pages, and we'll discuss that at length in upcoming episodes. Meanwhile, if you want more, be sure to like this video and subscribe. Also, let me know what you think in the comments. I'm on the hunt for more stories to feature, so tell me what you're interested in.